All right, welcome everybody to the March 2026, or 2025, there we go. Planning and Zoning Board meeting for the City of Mesa. We'll begin with our roll call. Chair Ayers is present. Vice Chair Pitcher.
Here.
Board Member Peterson.
Here.
Board Member Blakeman.
Here.
Board Member Farnsworth.
Here.
All right, we'll excuse Board Member Montez and Carpenter today. So as part of the agenda for today, we do have a consent agenda. This will be read into the record and acted on in one motion. These items will not be discussed individually, and Board Member Farnsworth will be reading our consent agenda today.
All right, items on the consent agenda. Approval of minutes for the previous meetings, minutes from the March 12th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Take action on the following items. Item 3B, case ZON 01022, Atlas Eastmark, 38 acres located approximately 3,160 feet south of the southwest corner of South Signal Butte Road and East Elliott Road. Site plan review for a 254,945 square foot industrial development. Staff recommendations, approval with conditions. Item 3C, case ZON 24-01079, Get Air Sports Mesa, 3.5 acres located at the northeast corner of South Ellsworth Road and East Elliott Road. Major site plan modification and special use permit for a small-scale commercial recreation facility with attached commercial uses. Staff recommendations, approval with conditions. Section 4, discuss and make recommendations to the City Council on the following zoning cases. Item 4A, case ZON 24-00548, SAIA Motor Freight Lines, 13 acres located approximately 1,900 feet east of the southeast corner of East Pecos Road and South Crisman Road. Site plan review for a freight truck terminal and warehouse. SAI Motor Freight Line LLC owner, Chris Burgum, applicant. Staff recommendations continue to a date uncertain. Section 5, discuss and take action on the following preliminary plats. Item 5A, Atlas Mesa Eastmark preliminary plat, 38 acres located approximately 3,160 feet south of the southwest corner of South Signal Butte Road and East Elliott Road. Preliminary plat, staff recommendation, approval with conditions. And item 5B, Get Air Sports Mesa preliminary plat, 3.5 acres located at the northeast corner of South Ellsworth Road and East Elliott Road. Preliminary plat, staff recommendation, approval with conditions.
All right, thank you. So all in favor of passing the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda is read.
I love how he's yelling at me. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
So moved.
Move, second.
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 All right, all in favor? Vice Chair Pitcher?
Yes.
Board Member Blakeman?
Yes.
And that unanimously passes. Thanks for reading the consent agenda for us today. So we'll turn the time over to staff for presentation. And we will be moving to item 3A. And before you get up here, Josh, I'm going to go ahead and just announce I will be recusing myself on this case. And Board Member Peterson will be taking over. So, have fun.
Form of two.
Councilmember Peterson and board members, would you like to hear the presentation again that you heard at today's session?
To the board, is there a desire to hear the same presentation or just to go to comments from the public and then applicant? Here,
I'm okay on the comments.
No need.
I don't need to do the presentation.
yeah, no need for presentation. Thank you. So with that, we open up the public hearing portion and would invite, first off, the applicant, Gary Hayes.
Good afternoon, board members, Board Member Peterson, Vice Chair Pitcher. Gary Hayes on behalf of Ryan Companies, 2198 East Camelback Road, Phoenix 85016. We are in support of the staff report or staff memo as presented down in study session. We would also reserve all of our time for rebuttal after you hear from some of the other speakers here today.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Hayes before? Okay. Thank you,
No.
Mr. Hayes. Susan Demmett next, will you please come forward?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Susan Demmett with Gamage and Burnham, 40 North Central Avenue, Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm here this afternoon on behalf of Mesa, or DMB Mesa Proving Grounds LLC, the master developer at Eastmark. And I'll keep our comments relatively brief. We submitted a letter that I think most of you should have received or had an opportunity to review before the meeting. And we want to publicly state that the position of Eastmark and the master developer for Eastmark is that the stipulations for this case should not be modified, that this project should follow the same Eastmark and City of Mesa collaborative DRB or DRC review process that's been followed for the last 14 years for every single other project within Eastmark. There's been some discussion, I know, at the study session about whether or not the Eastmark DRC process is a private governance issue. We respectfully disagree with the city attorney's opinion. We believe that the planned community zoning district regulations, the community plan for Eastmark, and some specific provisions in the development agreement, which is a contract between the city and Eastmark, lay the groundwork and set forth the requirements that this design review and design guideline compliance would be a collaborative effort with the city and Eastmark through the life of any development project. And so this sets precedent going forward because, again, there has not been a single project developed in Eastmark to date that has not gone through the Eastmark design review process with the city participating. As to Amazon in the specific application, you know, they are aware of the Eastmark design review process. They went through it in 2021 for this exact same piece of property. They were proposing a distribution and warehouse facility at the time. They went through the Eastmark design review process. They received a design review approval letter, conditional letter from Eastmark. They have ultimately changed the use of the property from a distribution facility to a data center. And since that time, they have not even tried to present a modified design review application to Eastmark. They have gone straight to trying to modify these stipulations to circumvent the Eastmark design review process. And so with that, I think, you know, that's the extent of our comments really, is that we believe that there's a regulatory requirement for this process, that there's a 14-year precedent for this process, and there's no reason that this project should not move through that same process as it did 3 years ago. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Susan. Do any board members have any questions for Susan?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Hayes, if you'd like to come back up for a few minutes.
I think I'm going to need help getting my PowerPoint because I'm not sure how to find it on here. Oh, was it? Okay. Okay, perfect. So I don't think any of us really want to be here today. I think staff, nor myself, nor probably Ms. Demmett want to be here. As I mentioned earlier, I represent Ryan Companies. Ryan Companies is the developer of this project. And I've known Susan for a long time. I respect Susan. I don't think she has all the information. And I think Board Member Pitcher asked the question, why? And that's what my presentation hopefully will help you out here today. January 8, 2024, Josh Tracy from Ryan Companies sent a link to Julie, what is her name? Julie Jones, I believe, at Tate Design, which is the process we followed in 2021 and the process we followed in 2024. January 10th, Julie Jones from Tate Studio Architects said, thank you, received. January 26th, Julie Jones says, hey, thank you, here's an update. I anticipate being able to provide site plan approval with stipulations. February 5th, here's the comments. I think some board members were questioning whether or not we would meet the Eastmark Design Review Committee criteria. We have. Here are all their comments. And in May 7, here's a link to the revised design review documents. You can notice on every one of these emails, it's going to the design review and to Eric Toon from Brookfield. May 13th, this is where we kind of ran into a little bit of a problem. Hi, Josh, we're not able to complete design review until zoning for this property is amended to allow for data center uses as requested. Now, a year ago, almost a year ago, Vice Chair Pitcher asked Josh Grandleonard, is this the appropriate zoning for this use? And he said, yes, and it's in your staff report. And this board, who's responsible for zoning, said that was an appropriate use. Attached to that May 13 email was a rejection letter signed by Eric Toon, CCing Ms. Haggart, Christy Cannon, and Julie Jones. As you can see, it says, we are rejecting your submittal. So the problem we have here is we had two of these projects. One was inside Eastmark, one was not. One has building permits, one does not. We can't get building permits because they rejected our submittal after they gave us a conditional approval. They gave us a conditional approval, then rejected us because, as you can see that next sentence, it says, it's really small on my screen, so I apologize. Once you have obtained a recorded use restriction amendment, you can resubmit. So Eastmark, DMB, whoever, Brookfield, is conflating two issues. They are saying we are now in charge of zoning. We're not doing design. So after I got this letter, I reached out to staff and said, do I have a zoning issue? Staff said, no. I have an email from Evan and Mary that said, you have no zoning issue. But I can't get them to approve or even allow me to submit. So I said, staff, I just need to get through this process. I'll go to DRB. I'll do whatever I need to do in order to get my permits. And that's why we're here today. So Vice Chair Pitcher asked why. This is why. I can't move. I'm stuck. And I need to unstick this process. And I can't have Eastmark using a private cause of action, for lack of a better term, to hold up my permits from the city of Mesa.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate the presentation. Board members, do you have questions for Gary?
I don't.
Jeff, do you?
No, thank you.
Gotcha. Is there, just as a procedural question for legal, and as we talked before, there's, and even in the letter from Brookfield, there's some disputes between the two parties to work out here. Is it appropriate to have Susan Demmett come back, or is this not the place to litigate this issue since it's, or what's your recommendation there? Because there's some pretty significant differences in what was presented from what was written in the letter from.
Board Member Peterson, so during discussion, the board is permitted to call up both applicant or members of the public to ask questions, not to engage in discussion with them, but for further clarification.
Okay, thank you. So on that, then I will, are there any other speakers for this item? Then we will close the public hearing and move to discussion. So for the board, is there, before we get into discussion, is there any desire to have any questions or clarity from either Susan Demmett or Gary Hayes on this item?
I think to your point, Board Member Peterson, it's warranted. The differences are significant. I think we need to hear a little bit more.
Okay, got you. Susan, if you wouldn't mind to come back up and. Yep, so just in, to clarify in the letter that was sent yesterday on your letterhead, it had statements, Amazon never filed a request with the Eastmark DRC for design review. And is that based on the emails that Gary Hayes showed? Is that still an accurate statement?
Well, I had not seen the materials that Gary had provided today, but that was based on my conversations with Brookfield and DMB Mesa Proving Grounds. And, you know, the focus has been that historically an approval letter from the East Mark Design Review Committee has been required for every application in East Mark.
Gotcha, okay. And from the previous letter in February of 2024, even before this case came before the board last year, there was some, maybe not the formal letter, but there was a conditional approval from the email that was shown?
So
Was
I
it-
wasn't, I was not able, there was, from my knowledge, there was an approval in 2021, a conditional approval.
So this one was 2024, specific to the data center use, and before it came to the board in May of 2024 for recommendation. from them.
Understood. I have not seen that
Okay.
document, so.
Gotcha. Does anyone else have any other questions for Susan at this time? Jeff or Jamie, any questions?
No, appreciate your discussion.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Any discussion from the board, or if not, any motions to be made?
No discussion, but I'm happy to make a motion for approval.
Okay, gotcha. Any discussion, Jamie or Jeff, before we go to a motion?
No, and I'd just like to thank both the applicant and Susan for their presentation. That helped us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll take a stab at a motion, see how we do here. So a motion to approve case ZON 2.
Just say item 3A.
Sorry, thank you. Motion to approve item 3A, case ZON 24-01019, PHX 062, 36.9 acres, located approximately 1,850 feet west of the southwest corner of South Signal Butte Road and East Elliott Road. Modifications of conditions for approval, number 2 and number 3, for case number ZON 24-0019.
000.
Oh, sorry, 00019. Even I heard Evan say the third one. Staff recommendations approval with conditions.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. And if all would vote? And for a voice vote from Vice Chair Pitcher
Yes.
and from Board Member Blakeman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And the motion passes with 3 yes votes and with Chair Ayers abstaining. 4 yes. I'm sorry, what did I say? Oh, 4 yeses with Chair Ayers abstaining. Thank you. And back to staff. Any other items for the agenda? Actually, let me throw it back to the chair, and then he can take it from there.
Chair, there's no additional items.
All right, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second there, all in favor? Vice Chair Pitcher
Yes.
and Board Member Blakeman.
Yes.
And we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for being here.